Welcome to the Writing Center. College writing challenges you to use sources, and lots of them. You probably have learned how to find sources and how to assess them for credibility, but you may not yet have learned how to use sources to your best advantage because you weren't taught the rhetorical use of sources. To use sources rhetorically is to understand how a source affects your readers, how it helps them understand your points, and ultimately, whether or not to accept your thesis. This video describes the 4 rhetorical uses of source material using the mnemonic BEAM, B-E-A-M, as described in a 2008 article by Boston University professor Joseph Bizzop. BEAM means background, exhibits, arguments, methods. While this video introduces these 4 ways to using sources effectively, it is not important that you use all of them in every paper or even in the order we present them. What is important is that you end this video with a better understanding of why you collect sources, what you use them for, and how you can use them to best support your ideas. So let's look at background. For your readers to get the most out of your paper, you may need to establish a foundation of knowledge from which your argument will proceed. Maybe you want to argue that Romeo and Juliet do not really love each other. Well, wouldn't that depend on your definition of love? While a dictionary definition is not likely to be enough, using sources to establish the definition under which you are operating will go a long way to helping readers assent to your argument. It may also help in an argument like that to focus on historical context as background. What did people in Shakespeare's day think of love? What did they write about it? How did they act it? In these ways, you might have other kinds of meaningful context that would help you make your argument. It may be that you also could review the facts of the case. What is it they said? What is it they did? Where do you find that in your source material? And in that, you also would have some background to establish a realm of fact that will help you draw your conclusions from it. It may also be that you could do a literature review. What have other writers and critics said about Romeo and Juliet's love affair? More advanced writing in college will often hinge upon your successful literature review. Do you have a command of the conversation up to the point where you are writing? What do you have to add to that conversation? Well, a literature review provides background of that sort. So whatever paper you're writing, ask yourself what your readers need to know so they can get the most out of your paper, and where in your sources you can find that background material. And if the background material is not in the sources you've gathered so far, now you know what to look for as you continue your research. Let's move on to exhibits. For readers to agree with your judgments about whatever your topic may be, you might need to provide exhibits which you can display, interpret, and analyze. There can be visual exhibits such as, let's say, an MRI, or material exhibits such as a murder weapon. But more commonly in academic settings, your exhibits will be sentences or perhaps images from publications. Let's say you're writing about whether Romeo and Juliet's love affair is really love. Your paper might produce an exhibit such as this line, which Romeo uses to explain his love a minute after seeing Juliet. Or perhaps you can use a still from a performance where you could interpret the body language and from that determine whether these 2 individuals are in love. So let me emphasize that producing the exhibit from a source is only the beginning of its use. To supply only the exhibit would be like a prosecutor saying, "Let the jury know that exhibit 1 is a weapon. I rest my case." Without knowing how that weapon is tied to the accused and to the victim, there is no point in having the exhibit. So when it comes time to producing an exhibit from Romeo and Juliet, Romeo's line about the torches may illustrate a love so deep that he sees Juliet as the source of all light. Or maybe it's just a line he learned from a book, or that he used on a girl like Rosalind, the previous girl, and it's only nothing more than a shallow remark. Or you could use a photo or recording from a performance, but again, it is how you interpret or analyzing the source. Looking at the body language here from Romeo and Juliet, You could illustrate how smitten Romeo looks and how he holds her hand from below, how he makes himself small and looks up at her. But what do you make of Juliet's appearance? Again, it's how you interpret the exhibit that makes or breaks your use of this kind of source. Let's move on to arguments. For readers to take your ideas seriously, you might use sources to show how your ideas stack up against others writing about the same thing. Who agrees with you, and why should that matter? Who disagrees with you, and what can you say to them? When you engage the arguments of other published writers, you get some of that stardust on yourself. You also earn the respect of your readers and gain credibility by acknowledging those who see your topic differently. If you were assigned, for instance, to argue that the love between Romeo and Juliet was either an adolescent sickness or a healthy response to a sick society, you would find support or challenge in these following two views. The first argues that a diseased hatred permeates their relationship, while the other asserts their love is a healthy expression of a freedom that can outlive death itself. One of them will help your argument, while the other allows you to acknowledge, disagree with, or even concede other views that could be right. Lastly, we'll look at methods. For readers to trust that you have followed good procedures in coming to your conclusions, you should acknowledge sources that helped you create a methodology for your research. Now, this practice is far more common in the natural and social sciences, where researchers often include a section in their papers about the activities they undertook to generate knowledge or to solve a problem. For instance, in a study of mountain lions in the wilderness-urban interface, researchers report on how they used other studies to examine the lions that they captured. Here, the authors acknowledge the originator of two practices involved in their study. Not only is giving credit a matter of courtesy and integrity, it is vital in helping readers trust your results. In fields like history, literature, philosophy, or theology, writers rarely have sources for discrete, step-by-step procedures common in the sciences, but they do acknowledge governing concepts for the methods of making sense of the world. In this passage, the author credits another researcher named Rosalie Coley, who laid the groundwork for studying a particular structure in Romeo and Juliet called Petrarch and Commonplaces. The author of this passage acknowledges Coley's work as he takes the study of Petrarch and Commonplaces further than anyone before. In this way, the author is framing a governing concept and attributing the source to give that governing concept credence and persuasiveness in his own argument. So that's it. Background, exhibits, argument, method, beam. By staying on the beam, you will experience better control over your research process. By considering how you want your sources to impact your readers, you will select more relevant details from your sources and use them more purposefully. We hope this video has helped you understand how you can better use sources in your writing. If you need more help, we would love to see you in the Writing Center. We have appointments available Monday through Friday for most of the semester. And until we see you, we wish you the best with all your writing projects this semester. If you're ready to speak with one of us, snap this QR code. It will take you to our website, and you can make an appointment from there.